Karp, our new sports anchor and reporter, so you can watch that on Fox Local too.
What did Jonah think about your prediction? Was he in line with that?
Yeah, his score was a little different, but it was about the same. I don't remember what his was exactly, but it was pretty close.
I'm going like 42-10.
42 to 10.
Okay,
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Hey, we would take it. Yeah.
Thanks, Garrett.
See you, Garrett. Well, let's talk about this. A new study finding most people prefer to know what they're getting into when hitting up a new restaurant. So eater asked social media what they like on the menu before going out to eat, or do they wing it? A number of people said they likely glance at the menu beforehand. Not only do they pick their top entree, they choose alternates in case the restaurant has run out of their preferred choice. I think we probably check, especially if you're in a tourist area, the menu first, so you're not getting hit with some high fees.
Right. Yeah. Like you want to know prices,
yes.
right? But I do also read reviews before I go to a restaurant.
Absolutely.
Like if somebody says, okay, I made a reservation, we're all going to wherever. Like I just want to know.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, bizarre and bougie menu item turning heads at the U.S. Open. This is funny. The tennis tournament in New York City is offering chicken nuggets with a side of caviar. The 6 nuggets will cost you $100, but a lot of fans are dishing out the cash to try it. The box also comes with a mother of pearl spoon and toppings like onions. Last year, the nuggets were only available to fans in the club level, but this year it's available to anyone who is willing to pay for it and can stomach it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure it's good, not for $100. That's a lot.
I've never tried caviar.
You've never tried caviar?
No.
So I've done caviar, but not on a chicken nugget.
I guess if you count like like with sushi, you know, like sometimes they'll put like the little, what do they call it, like the fish eggs, but they call it something else. But I don't know. I guess if you count that, I don't know.
It's just very salty, is what I would say.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good way to describe it.
When I tried it once, I said, okay, I don't know if I'm going to fuss about that.
Like anchovies.
Here's the orchestra. Go Knights. We'll see you tomorrow to wrap things up.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A lot of things going on this morning. In fact, can give you a live look in Apalachicola, where we expect to hear any minute now from Attorney General James Uthmeier, who is there with deputies from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the FDLE as well, and ICE. They're going to talk about the arrests of child predators. So we will get you to that news conference, which we do expect to begin any minute now. That's scheduled to start at 11. You can see a number of folks already standing there waiting for the Attorney General. So we will bring that to you live here in just a couple of minutes. We're also going to hear from Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings. responding to DOJ subpoenas. This was a big topic of conversation yesterday when the state held a news conference. The governor and the CFO both in Orlando yesterday afternoon talking about issuing subpoenas because they say the county is not complying or not fully cooperating with the DOJ audits. We will have more on that in just a little bit. We are also monitoring a FEMA Review Council meeting. This is the council that is looking at ways to potentially change how FEMA handles disaster response. It looks like that meeting just came up here, and so we do expect this is a virtual meeting. This is Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who is one of the co-chairs of this council. There are also several members of this council with Florida ties, including the Tampa Mayor Jane Castor, the Miami-Dade County Sheriff Rosie Cordero Stutz, and the Director of Florida's Division of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie. They are looking at, again, how FEMA does things when it comes to disaster response and a number of other issues, something that we know, unfortunately, well here in the state of Florida because of hurricane season. So let's go ahead and listen in to Secretary Noem's opening remarks here as we wait for the Attorney General in Apalachicola.
They're on the ground and responsive to the individuals that are necessary to help people be healed and whole through these situations. I'm so excited that you get the chance to enjoy Oklahoma City. In that great state of Oklahoma, you've got a fantastic governor, Governor Stitt. It's great for you to be hosting everybody, and your hospitality, I'm sure, is amazing. That is a wonderful city filled with cowboys and the Western way of life and businessmen and women who love America. So I wish I could have been there today, but we've been working here in DC on safety and security and also bringing some peace to the streets of Washington, D.C. and partnering with the president on what we can do to bring reforms to other parts of Homeland Security to be prepared for big events that are coming. And so it's been a busy week. Otherwise, I would love to be with you today talking about the reforms for FEMA that are so critically important. I do want to thank Governor Phil Bryant as well for his leadership. He's been absolutely fantastic and working so hard, having, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of hours in phone calls, gathering information, feedback from different leaders, local, state, but also senators and congressmen on what their reforms would be so that when we get to the end of this council's role, that we have a product that we can really present to the president and to Congress that will make sure that FEMA is responsive, that it's responsive and that it's doing the role for which it was created. Again, every disaster should be locally executed. It should be state-led, and then the federal government is there to support. And that's the mission set that we need to continue to view this through as we go through all of the work that we do every day. I know the subcommittees have been busy working as well. Thank you for that and putting in the extra time. 99% of the time, I believe you're meeting on a weekly basis to come up with specifics that we can implement right away. I do know we're going to hear some summaries out of leaders in the room, Governor Abbott, maybe Governor Youngkin as well, and Nim Kidd, and some of the things that we've been going through as a country as far as disasters since January. Texas obviously was extremely devastating. Around the same time we saw New Mexico get hit, I had the chance to be there on the ground with the communities that were affected in both those states. And we're also still dealing with North Carolina and the families there that need help to continuing to be restored. This last weekend, on Saturday, we deployed another $28 million to North Carolina after 96 last week, and we'll continue to make that a priority, knowing how neglected they were under the previous administration. Listen, FEMA is much more responsive under President Trump to people's needs than it has been under previous administrations and President Biden. In fact, the data shows that we're over 100% more timely with dollars and with resources than any other time in the history of FEMA going back, is that we are responding quicker, deploying within hours to meet people on the ground with needs that they have. But also we need to make sure that as we do that, that we're being efficient with what the taxpayers have given us for resources. I sat with the president for several hours a couple of weeks ago and discussed 16 different disasters that we had open in this country and helped make decisions on getting resources out. Many of these disasters were still ones that have been open and needed to be handled and taken care of from previous years. And that is one of the things I'd like to charge your council with is how long should a disaster be left open? How quickly should we deploy resources? And then how long can cases continue to be filed? That is one of the things that makes it difficult to deploy immediately is when the termination date for a disaster goes on 15 to 20 years after the event has already occurred. The president believes that we should be in a disaster response portfolio and footprint, but the long-term mitigation should not be something that the federal government is continuing to be involved in to the extent that it has been in the past. We are in the middle of hurricane season, and so we're working hard to continue to stay prepared for that and notifications, and we've got a couple of months here yet where we're still going to be working with our local leaders to make sure that everything is pre-deployed and in position for whatever storm may come our way and that we can help people get through those difficult times. And we will be putting out a lot of information today on FEMA as well as to how we have used resources under the Trump administration. I'd like to encourage all of you to be vocal if you've had interactions with the Trump administration and how positive that they've been, to share that with people and tell the story. Tell the story of how different FEMA has been the last 7-8 months under his leadership than it was previous to that. I'm so proud to work for a president that recognizes that disaster response needs to be led by local community leaders. They know best how to serve their communities, but also that we listen to them and the governors on how that response can be best be delivered. And then also that it shouldn't be based on political decisions. We certainly saw that under Joe Biden's administration, and that is not something that's happening under President Trump. President Trump believes that that help should be applied equally to Americans to help them get back on their feet and their families to get through difficult situations. So with that, Patrick, I'll turn it.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem giving her opening remarks at this FEMA Review Council meeting that is going on live now. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We are still standing by for the Attorney General in Apalachicola talking about child predator arrests. You also see a live picture there of the growing tribute outside the shooting scene at Annunciation School, a Catholic school in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where two kids were killed and 17 others were injured in a shooting yesterday. A growing tribute there. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back, so keep it here on Fox Local.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Give you another live look inside. This is Disc Village in Apalachicola. It's a behavioral services and drug treatment center where we expect the Attorney General to begin speaking any moment now, joined by the Franklin County Sheriff, the FDLE Commissioner, and also the Assistant Special Agent in charge with ICE, Homeland Security Investigations Tallahassee. So they are going to be talking about the arrests of child predators, and so we will get you inside that news conference as soon as it begins. Meanwhile, a disagreement is brewing between the state and Orange County. State leaders say the county is not cooperating with the DOJ audit that the CFO is conducting, and that his audit teams have been on the ground for in Orange County. And so county employees are going to be getting subpoenas to comply with this investigation. Now, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings is firing back. Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie gets us up to speed.
Orange County is the first local government being audited to have people subpoenaed. Florida's DOJ team says they believe Orange County may be trying to hide something when it comes to grants or programs related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the Orange County mayor says these subpoenas are baseless. Now, it was just yesterday afternoon when the state CFO Blaise Ingegno and Governor Ron DeSantis stood side by side blasting Orange County's cooperation with the ongoing DOJ audit. They claim some county employees read from scripts during the auditing process and submitted incomplete records related to DEI grant programs. The DOJ team is also investigating whether county employees changed file names so as to not come up during the audit.
Orange County fooled around, and now they're about to find out.
There have not been full cooperation with Blaise and his team.
Some Orange County employees will be served with investigative subpoenas. Although the CFO would not say how many, he did say this could just be round one. Florida's DOJ team says it's zeroing in on local governments and looking at ways to cut what they say is wasteful spending. The DOJ audit of Orange County started earlier this month. The governor and CFO point to a ballooning county budget growing by $500 million in 5 years. Mayor Jerry Demings sent us this statement saying, quote, Orange County government fully cooperated with the Florida DOJ audit team, providing all the data and documents requested. No employee was instructed to alter, change, or delete any documents. While our employees may have read from or referred to notes or documents being discussed by the DOJ team, employees were not scripted in their remarks. The state has offered no evidence to support its allegation that we are hiding information or acting without integrity. We welcome the opportunity for full public transparency on this issue. When talking about the subpoenas, the CFO said, don't lie or we'll bring in FDLE. We are still awaiting the results from the audit, which could still take several more weeks. Reporting in Orlando, Amanda McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Meanwhile, Mayor Demings was at a ribbon-cutting event today for a new Link station in Pine Hills, and he spoke to reporters about this subpoena issue over the alleged non-compliance with the state DOJ audits, but he maintains that he and his office have fully complied with the state's efforts. Here's Mayor Demings just moments ago.
All right, Mayor. We saw your statement last night in reaction to the subpoenas from Florida's CFO. What is the county doing now to move forward after this announcement was made yesterday?
Well, Orange County will comply with the subpoenas. Our staff that has been subpoenaed, certainly they have the responsibility to respond to the subpoenas. But I would tell you that there's something else driving this, and this is all being driven by political motives for whatever reason, to kind of focus on Orange County and Central Florida. In the last few weeks, there've just been one attack, if you will, by the state on different entities, different governments here within Central Florida. And that's just mean-spirited. That's all I can tell you is that certainly from a county perspective, we fully cooperated with the DOJ inquiry that was being done here. They didn't talk to me, but they talked to our staff. And what our staff has said is that they answered whatever questions and provided whatever information was requested of them. So I can tell our public that there's not been any direction from myself or any senior leadership to our employees to hide information or any of that. I find this somewhat interesting because As someone who did investigations for a number of years, who managed and supervised investigations, you never begin an investigation where you have already concluded the outcome. And in this case, clearly that's what has happened. There was a press conference announced, and that's not the way you do investigations. You let the facts determine where you end up. You don't start out with the end in mind, because then what happens is you taint the whole process. So this whole process has been tainted at this point, because they've already tried and convicted Orange County before they've ever even completed their investigation. So when that happens, you know that that's politically motivated. Something else is motivating that. And in this case, that's what has happened. They've tried to intimidate the witnesses, if you will, the employees. That's not the way you do an investigation in advance. You accuse, you make accusations before you've ever even talked to the individuals. You come to conclusions before you have ever received all of the facts and the information. I can say that objectively, that they apparently don't have the information, because if they did, why would they be subpoenaing people and saying, come forward and tell us we believe that you have done X, when in this case there's no evidence been produced of the accusations that have been made. And if there are any employees that did something where, you know, they didn't maintain records or produce records, then that's on the employees. But I doubt very seriously that that's a widespread thing that has happened in this case. So I look forward to the outcome. What I say to our public is, you have to question what has happened here. Have you ever seen an investigation where someone during the process of the investigation came in with the results and then they did a press conference? You're not after the truth when you do that. You're simply trying to taint the outcome and the public opinion. So we'll have to see where this all ends up, but you know, this is the political landscape that we're in now. So that's all the comments that I'm going to give at this time. I do appreciate the media for at least caring enough to try to objectively report on what is happening here within our community. But we are a target. This community is a target. This is not about Orange County. This is not about the employees. This is politically motivated for other reasons. And I'll reserve my comments about why I think this is happening. But what I would say to all of you is stand by. That will become clearer to you why these attacks are occurring on good, hardworking people here within Orange County. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Dimmings just moments ago. Now let's go ahead and get you inside this news conference going on live in Apalachicola, where we are expect to hear about the arrests of child predators as part of an operation in North Florida. Let's go ahead and listen in.
First time one has ever been done in Franklin County, and I just want to thank FDLE and the Attorney General for being partners, and Homeland Security and TPD, Leon County, Jack Campbell, State Attorney, all the folks that it takes to make something like this happen. But as you can see, no matter where you are, there's always these predators who want to do bad things to children. And it was not, and somebody asked me, you know, where were they from? Well, they were from right here, and they were as far away as Washington State. So I'm going to turn it over to the Attorney General, let him say a few words or whatever he'd like to say, and then we'll open it up to some other folks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I want to thank Sheriff Smith here in the Sheriff's Office really for leading in a monumental way. I've consistently said since I've been in office, you know, protecting our kids is our #1 priority, and it's great to work with so many different law enforcement agencies working together to protect our kids. So here we've got 8 individuals being arrested, 6 are already in custody. And one of these individuals, I will point out, is an illegal alien that should not even be in the country. So you hear the left, you hear the media, you know, try to spin this narrative that, you know, people are just here wanting to pursue a good living and an honest living. And then every time we do one of these stings, we end up pulling illegal aliens off the streets that are trying to molest and prey upon our kids. So no, It is not just people that are here wanting to, work hard and raise a family. There are people here that have illicit motives that want to hurt our children. So we are going to continue to enforce rule of law. We're going to continue to detain these individuals and get them back where they came from. It's an honor to work with our sheriffs. We got the best sheriffs in the country, hands down. They're protecting the counties every single day. I want to thank Commissioner Glass and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And I want to thank our investigators here. Looking at this harmful content, I mean, some of it is so grotesque you can't even speak of it. But they do the Lord's work, they put in the time, and ultimately they save lives. I'd like to thank our prosecutors in our statewide office as well as in the Second Circuit. The law enforcement guys can bring them in, but we're going to put them away, and we're going to put them away for as long as we can. So again, protecting our kids is our #1 mission. We're going to continue to do it. Since I've been in office, I think we're nearing 100 child predators that have been locked up, and we're going to keep going until we get absolutely every single one, or as many as we can. So I'll conclude by saying it's an honor to work in an interagency coordinated effort. In Florida, that's the way we roll. I hope other states are able to do the same thing, because when we're all rowing in the same direction, we put bad guys away and we save lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Glass.
Good morning. My name is Mark Glass. I'm the FDLE Commissioner, and I just want to reiterate what the Attorney General stated and the Sheriff here at Franklin County on this operation. In Florida, this is zero tolerance. You go after our kids, we go after you. Right now, I have agents in another state trying to find one of these perpetrators to bring them back to justice. So, what does that mean for you? We're in a law and order state, if you haven't paid attention. From Governor DeSantis and the AG, the Attorney General, the CFO, and the Agricultural Commissioner all banding together to make sure this is a law and order state in our House and Senate, helping us to get laws to make this even more so of a law and order state, especially in this arena. Against child exploitation, the governor was able to sign into law additional laws that would help us to combat and fight this infestation within our community. You are very fortunate in this part of the state and the whole part of the state, the Florida Sheriff's Association and the 67 sheriffs that we have, and the chiefs of police in the Florida Police Chiefs Association band together on all this type of internet crimes against children. We are on one team, one fight in this state, and we will not tolerate it. And the Attorney General hears me say this all the time. This is just pure evil. You're dealing with people that are just pure evil. The stuff that happens and what they do, what they share of children that has been exploited is just unconscionable. I just can't even say anymore on that one. It's sick. So what we need as a community, we need you to also, if you see stuff like this, is to report it. To report it to your local law enforcement. You have one of the best sheriffs here. He's the saltwater sheriff for the state of Florida, which is A.J. Smith. He is the best. And Franklin County is doing so well in this area because he doesn't tolerate any of this. Dusty Arnold, the sheriff of Liberty County, the same there. They do not tolerate this in Liberty County. The other sheriffs there, Walt McNeil, Tommy Ford, were all part of this operation, the summer hurricane. And I just want to say, and Chief Revel with TPD allowing us to utilize their folks in these chat ops to do that. And we cannot forget our federal partners. Our federal partners at Homeland Security Investigation has been amazing in this arena. This is their forte too. And FDLE partners side by side with them on everything to do stuff not only here, out of state, and overseas. They're one of our key leaders here to make sure that we put a stop to this type of activity. But also, too, you can go to FDLE's website. I want you to take a look at the sex offender, sex predator list and know your neighborhood, know your area, know what's around you and your children. Take a look at that and, keep your community safe. But don't be afraid to say something. Call your sheriff's department, call FDLE, call HSI, call someone. We all work together. We spend time together and we fight together. But these detectives and analysts do the Lord's work every day. The victims' advocates do the Lord's work every day, trying to help and place these children in the right places they need to be and take them away from these offenders. Thank you for your time, but let's just keep Florida safe.
Sheriff Arnold, do you want to say anything? You sure? Come on now. The cute sheriff. So we'll entertain any questions. Whoever has a question, just pick whoever you'd like to talk to. The Attorney General. Any questions? Come on, I know y'all got questions.
I'll say one more thing, and then what people are thinking. You know, the internet is making it a lot easier for dangerous people to get access to our kids. So I'm trying to get a drumbeat going to wake up parents. If you don't know what your kids are doing on their cell phone, if you don't know what apps they're accessing, you need to go home and figure it out. I know when it gets to teenagers, you know, you got a tough decision to decide, you know, should your kid have this phone and unlimited access to the internet or not? I'm sure that's, I'm grateful my daughter's 5 only, because she's already debating me and fighting with me, and she's so smart. I can only imagine what, you know, 12, 13 is going to look like. But here in Florida, I mean, we again have led, we passed a law that we're litigating through the courts to defend that does not allow young teenagers, young children to access social media apps like Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook and others. They're too young, and we believe as a state that it's too dangerous out there and that they're not mature enough to be prepared for predators like these guys that we're talking about today who want to get access to them. When it comes to older teenagers, 14, 15, 16, you know, with parental consent, you can get on and have access. But parents need to know, they need to know about the tools available to them to restrict certain access, to be able to track or monitor what their kids are doing. But just know, I mean, since we brought a lawsuit against Snapchat for violating our state law, for carelessly endangering our kids, exposing them to the harms, this app is a preferred app for sex predators because things disappear. I had never used it, but pictures and messages, you know, they disappear after a short amount of time. So it's harder for law enforcement to track and monitor what's going on. So we filed the lawsuit. Since then, I think we've arrested several individuals for preying on kids in the worst circumstances, actually committing sexual abuse, and it all began through this app, Snapchat. So again, parents, grandparents, you are the first line of defense. You got to go home, get up to speed on what your kids are doing, get access to the tools. You can protect a dangerous situation from happening. Thanks.
David, you have a question?
Yeah. What techniques are used by law enforcement to identify sexual offenders and arrest them?
I can take it or you can take it.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to say everything because some of these stings are ongoing and we don't want to reveal tactics that have been successful in putting bad guys away. But obviously you've got some undercover law enforcement that are working in chat rooms, that are working on social media sites, that are engaged in some conversations, enough so to reveal communications, photographs, solicitations, things that get quite vulgar in nature but ultimately reveal that you've got an individual that wants to do something horrific to a child.
Can you talk about the background of some of these individuals and how they were able to access these children exactly?
Does anybody want to talk about that one?
So the background of these, excuse me, my name's Sean Wheeler. I'm the Special Agent Supervisor of Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Some of these individuals' backgrounds are extremely diverse, all walks of life. Some of these are state workers. Some of these are in sales. So their backgrounds are just across the board, very diverse. And as the sheriff spoke and the AG spoke, some of these individuals aren't just located here in the state of Florida. They're located across the country. And it's our job as law enforcement officers to do everything we can to go seek these individuals out that are preying on our children.
Here's one thing I want to make clear. If you're thinking about getting online and chatting with an underage person, it may not be an underage person. It may be a law enforcement officer. So that's why we do these operations. That's so we can identify the people that are wanting to do this. Because maybe if they know that they're liable to be talking to someone who's in law enforcement and they're going to get arrested no matter what state they're in, they might think twice about doing it. And that's why we do these, and that's why we put their names out, and that's why we put their pictures out, and we want everybody to know who they are. So get a good close-up of all these folks up here, and thank you. Any other questions?
How does Homeland Security play a role in these operations?
Come on.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Ingegno. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security. Basically, by being a partner with all our other state and local partners, FDLE, Leon County, Franklin County, all our county and state partners and all our other federal partners, giving support, giving any kind of training, giving bodies to help chat, anything we can do to really support these operations. Help with, some of these, like we talked about, some of these offenders being in other states. Some of these may be overseas. We can help in that range too. So just being a good partner and supporting our partners.
Can you talk a little bit about how some of these people came from other states and how that works with state jurisdictions and just being able to?
Well, that's one of the reasons for having Homeland Security, the federal government, having the state government, having everybody working together so that we can go after the ones that are out of state, even out of the country, because Franklin County's small. We don't have specialists in cyber crimes. We don't have a lot of these the specialized equipment to do this stuff, but FDLE does, Homeland Security. So that's why we partner together to be able to do something like this. Is a sophisticated operation. This is not something that's put together in 5 minutes. So it takes a lot of expertise, takes a lot of technology, and takes a lot of hands on deck. Yes.
So on the board it says that this remains an active investigation. How many more people that you guys are looking into who are targeting children?
Albert, come on, address that please.
Many. So we have 6 in custody now. 2 we're actively looking for, including ones out of state. Because again, we put the bait out online, they come to the bait. So it's not so much that we hunt these people down, they hunt themselves. By imposing and impersonating a minor, we draw these people to us. What's really important, and just real quick, there's a perception. I've been doing this almost 20 years. About 14 years of that I've been hunting child predators. There's a perception in the pedophile community that if you want to seek kids online, that there are safe places to do so, and there are places that are not so safe. Nobody wants to be arrested. No pedophile hunting a kid wants to be on a board at a press conference. So the perception has been that the smaller rural areas are safer to hunt kids. And that was one of the biggest points when Sheriff Smith approached us. I think we're going on about almost a year ago about wanting to do this operation. This is something that was unique in a way that we've never done one in a rural area like this. You've seen these done in Tallahassee, in Tampa, Orlando, the bigger metropolitan areas. So one of the keys to this one was that we do something new. We do one of these in a rural, that's typically a rural area, and that way we can start to break that perception that this would be a safe area for someone to offend on a child. And that was one of the key points of this operation that I just want to make sure is mentioned, is we are setting a standard today, along with a strong AG, strong leadership in FDLE, HSI, everybody. We are setting a standard that the places you typically thought were okay to hunt kids or solicit kids online, that is no longer the case. If you thought you were safe trying to solicit a child online in a place like East Point or Apalachicola, because your mind says that there's not a big law enforcement presence there, it may not be a large sophisticated agency, so it's safer. We're breaking that mold with this op, and this will be the first of many. We have many more planned across the state. You'll see the AG, you'll see Commissioner Glass at many more press conferences, where we are going to start focusing these operations in sort of the non-traditional rural areas, because the internet doesn't care where you are, and it provides these offenders a pathway to offend anywhere. So we have to adjust, and we've made that adjustment. And so that's what's starting with this operation. What really makes it unique amongst the others is, again, we're trying to destroy that perception in the online pedophile community that there are safe places to solicit kids.
At the news conference wrapping up in Apalachicola, we've heard from a number of law enforcement agencies talking about this crackdown, this sting operation that resulted in 6 alleged child predators in custody, still looking for 2 others. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, and here is a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. Likely going to be some crowded beaches over the weekend. It is a holiday weekend coming up with Labor Day on a Monday, and that really brings an important focus on water safety and drowning prevention. When we know a lot of people are going to be maybe sitting around the pool, maybe going to the beach, maybe going to spend the weekend on a lake. And so joining us live now to talk about all this is Megan Ferraro. She's an executive director, the executive director of the ZAC Foundation, and also chair of the U.S. National Water Safety Action Plan. And Megan, good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us again here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thanks for having me today.
So this is a holiday weekend. And when it comes to talking about water safety and drowning prevention and that kind of thing, how does this being a holiday weekend make that message more urgent?
It makes it especially more urgent around holiday weekends like the 4th of July and Labor Day weekend, because families are recreating together with friends and folks that they haven't seen in some time, and there can be lots of distraction. And so if you're around water with your children over this holiday weekend, if you yourself are going boating this weekend, please be sure you follow these simple steps to being safe around water. The first is the A of the A, B, C, D, and E's of water safety. A stands for adults. Adults should never swim alone in the water, whether it's the pool or the ocean. Adults should always be watching their children when they're around water. Assign a water watcher to watch that pool at the family cookout this weekend. That means that someone is watching the surface of the water at all times. Ensure that if you have young children that don't know how to swim, that you're within arm's reach of them when they're in the water. If you're out on that boat, be sure that you're talking to your kids about water safety. B stands for barriers. We want four-sided fences around those backyard swimming pools. We know that drowning is the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4, and that most of those drownings happen in residential pools. If you have a four-sided isolation fence around your pool, if you have alarms on those doors and windows leading out to your pool area, the chances of your child drowning are much, much lower. C stands for classes, swim classes, CPR classes. We know that if CPR is administered at the time of a drowning, the chance of survival goes up significantly. And we want everyone to learn how to swim, not just children. And D stands for drains. Drain safety, ensuring that your pool is compliant with federal standards for appropriate and safe drain covers. D also stands for devices like life jackets. If you are going out in a boat this weekend, if you're swimming in the ocean and you're not a strong swimmer, we want you to be wearing a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. We want you swimming in front of a lifeguard chair. And if you find yourself caught in a rip current, we want you to follow steps like flipping onto your back, floating, giving yourself a moment to calm down, and then swimming parallel to the shore and then back to the shore once you're out of that rip current. So we want you to really be thinking holistically about water safety this weekend. We want you to have fun, but we just want you to do it safely.
And you mentioned some of those other factors because, it's one thing to say, well, make sure your child knows how to swim and make sure you're watching your kids when you're around water. But there are distractions, on weekends like this, there probably is or could be, alcohol involved. And then you mentioned the rip currents if you're out on the ocean. Those are just a few of the factors that really can play a part in just how quickly things can happen, even when you're trying to do everything right.
Even when you're trying to do everything right. This isn't an issue that's not layered. And so in Central Florida, we have come together to pull together stakeholders from all across Central Florida, including the State Department of Health, Orlando Health, the Children's Water Safety Village, to really have a series of meetings designed around the idea and the goal of developing a strategy for Central Florida. So we're referring to it as the Orange County Drowning Prevention Action Plan. And this plan is a whole community roadmap to reduce drowning deaths through awareness, access to lessons, and better data collection. Looking at the most recent numbers from DCF in Florida, there have sadly been 89 drowning deaths in the state this year. At this time last year, Florida had lost 81 to drownings. So we know that we are ahead of the trend of last year. And unfortunately, It's my fear that we're only going to see that number continue to increase this year. So the support of these stakeholders who have come together to develop this first ever roadmap for drowning prevention in Central Florida will be a huge benefit to the community. We're talking about increasing awareness of the risk of drowning, public campaigns in schools, airports, vacation rentals, partnership with members of the media like yourself, Garrett. You've been so committed to this issue this summer, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity to talk to your listening and viewing audience about the importance of water safety and drowning prevention. We want there to be a special focus on children with autism, epilepsy, and other special needs. We know that, in particular, for children with autism, the risk of drowning is 160 times higher than that of their peers. And so we know that the burden of drowning is not equal. We know that males are, much more likely to drown than females. In fact, 8 in 10 drowning victims are male. We know that young boys are risk takers, and that risk-taking behavior carries through to young adulthood. So we want you to really encourage you to be paying close attention, to be wearing those life jackets, that adult supervision. And then we're also focused on the practicalities, right? Expanding access to swimming lessons and safety education. We want to broaden those programs like the current swim lesson voucher program, embed water safety education in schools, in after-school programs, in pediatric visits, and in Head Start programs. And we want to ensure that water safety and drowning prevention information is available in all languages throughout the state of Florida. We also want to improve data and accountability. So thinking about a countywide drowning data system, an annual state drowning report, and support for those that are working on this data collection and reporting, because it is a really critical job.
Megan Ferraro, Executive Director of the Zach Foundation and Chair of the U.S. National Water Safety Action Plan. We appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus and sharing this message that, as you said, so important all the time, but especially on a weekend like this. So we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. A live look in Minneapolis as you see on the right there, a growing tribute outside the shooting scene where 2 children were killed, 17 other people injured. We're getting an update from the hospital. We have learned just in the last few minutes that 1 child remains in critical condition at the hospital and 1 child and adult remain in serious condition. Let's go ahead and listen in as this live news conference continues. They are taking questions now from reporters.
And then I think we're done transporting people after 25 minutes from the time to call here.
With 20 ambulances, how many people?
I think we ended up using a dozen or so ambulances and transported 17, I believe is the number. The 3 different area hospitals. Other questions?
Can I just
Yeah,
follow up
please.
on your point? Can you tell us more about how the community and specifically here at Hennepin Healthcare, given the connection to the school, how they're dealing with this?
You know, I can't speak. Everyone deals with individually differently, but I know our team is really resilient and strong, but you can train for this all you want, but ultimately it's still really challenging with little kids. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, we would add in terms of grief and handling trauma, it's day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 where it starts to slow down and those deeper thoughts start to come. So we're supporting our teams. They're heroes over there, but they're human also. So.
Yeah, and we have we have a great mental health resources as well. We have our psychiatric people come and met with the team. We do a hot wash. We have them chat with all the individual providers. We have other mental health resources in there, but it's usually days or weeks later that really kind of hits home to everybody, and so we'll see how it goes. But with the kids, it's just once again a different element of the process that makes it more challenging. I think kids, and also when you get other first responders that are injured, that also is challenging. So, but I think overall our team is doing really well. We have a lot of trauma that happens and a lot of gunshot wounds. This one's just a little bit different though. Other questions for anybody?
Could you address some of the efforts that were made on site in terms of life-saving measures that made a difference in terms of timing to get the patients to the hospital?
Sure, I'll let Dr. Robinson address that.
Beyond the overwhelming majority of these shooting type scenarios, police are the ones that actually apply the tourniquets. That is a major key in trauma care to stop the bleeding. When we're dealing with a trauma patient, the first step is to stop the bleeding because they're not going to survive if they continue to bleed even for a few minutes. So the first couple steps is applying tourniquets to extremities to stop the bleeding, and then applying pressure to other wounds that are maybe in the torso or in the trunk, as well as applying seals over any holes that we might find in the chest from bullets or knives or anything. Those are the key things for initial life-saving measures, followed by helping people breathe if they're not breathing effectively, and then transporting them to the hospital.
So specific to this, I know that you are not disclosing a lot of information in respect to patient privacy, but specific to this, can you talk about some of the things that were done that really made a difference, and what that time frame was?
Yeah, leaving specifics out of it, the really critical things that were done was bleeding was controlled quickly, and people's torso, those wounds were bandaged and packed very quickly. That made a key difference because we've got upwards of 20 patients that are potentially bleeding to death, and that's a lot of blood that is needed very quickly if we need to give those folks blood at the hospital. So big credit to stopping the bleeding, and that all happened within 1 or 2 minutes of police getting on scene. After they secured the scene, they were the ones tending to the victims and applying those life-saving interventions.
I'll jump in and add a little bit. Time, like Dr. Robinson talked about time. So we're pretty blessed here. Our crews got there quick. We transported the hospital quick. They get the ED quick. The surgeons are there quick. Ultimately, they need surgery. They have to sew up the areas that are bleeding. And so the quicker we can get them to surgery, and our surgical team is really the key. They talk about the golden hour. It's not an hour. You don't have an hour. You have minutes. So the team did great.
When you have a victim who is a bigger body mass and they are hit with gunfire, that's one thing. Of course, it depends on where they're hit. But when you have a child and it's a smaller body mass, can you talk about the scope of devastation when it's a child?
I mean, I think, so the psychological aspect, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, how, managing one child is difficult. Managing a multitude of children at the same time takes an enormous amount of resources. But I think, if you're talking specifics about like ballistics and injury, am I getting your question? Like you're talking about what the bullet does to the specific body part?
Not necessarily, just that, you have a smaller body mass and a bullet.
Yeah.
And on a smaller body mass, that the potential for the devastation is
Yeah, so children, when they're injured, have a unique ability to sort of maintain their circulation in their life, sort of like their blood pressure and their heart rate and stuff, keep themselves alive until they don't. So adults are a little bit more telling. Children are seemingly, they sort of are kind of plugging along, and then all of a sudden they're not. And we'll talk a little bit about the minutes and seconds and sometimes matter. But in these circumstances, I mean, yeah, one bullet wound to a chest in a child, if it's in a place where there's big blood vessels and things that could end your life quickly, there's not as much room for error. And so you have to, evaluate them quickly and manage them efficiently and fix basically the holes that are made from the bullets. But as far as I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but the stakes are a bit higher. I think would be the answer, the short answer. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Given the number of casualties, how remarkable is it that we are not hearing about more fatalities?
Yeah, I prayed about that on the way in yesterday when we were working on it about how this was going to work out and what this was going to look like, because there were a lot of gunshot wounds in places that were meant to kill people, and if there is such a thing as a silver lining to this, there was less casualties than what possibly could have been. So there could have been a lot of fatalities, and it doesn't take away from the pain that those that did not survive are going through, but this was meant to kill people.
I'll just add, I think that also it's really a testament to the system, the trauma system that we've built in this organization.
I would also say that the training that the kids did surprisingly paid off. They all laid on the floor, they covered each other up. That was key.
Yesterday, I asked police about how many kids or people were in the church when this happened. They're still trying to figure out a rough estimate, but for you that were at the scene, any idea of like how many people were there, like at parents or other kids or parishioners that might have been in the church?
I think there was a few hundred. I think there was every class, which is about 15 plus people, and it was kindergarten through 6th, 7th grade, something like that. And then there's teachers, there's other prisoners in there, there were some parents in there. So I can't give you a clear number, but it was full. It was a lot of people. Yeah.
If I may ask about, you mentioned blood loss and blood supply. Memorial Blood is getting a lot of calls from people who want to donate or actually having to kind of manage it right now. I wondered if you could speak to the blood usage and need for blood.
Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, sure. Glad you mentioned that. There's actually a critical blood shortage right now in the state of Minnesota, and I implore everybody that's available to please donate blood so we have it available for sick trauma patients and other people that need emergent blood. There's a critical shortage, and we have a few days on hand in the entire state. So please donate blood. The amount of blood that gets used in the ED, I'll defer to Dr. Wyatt and Dr. Gagan, as I wasn't in there at the time.
I can't comment to the exact number of units of blood that we pull from our own blood fridge in the emergency department or the units that we received from our blood bank, but it was pretty substantial. I'm not sure about the operating room.
I mean, we use blood in the operating room. I don't know the exact number, but the thing, you know, to echo the points is that it's we're still using blood. You know, so it's not just the morning of; it's ongoing.
This news conference has provided some new details, talking about the urgent need for blood donations there, and it appears this is wrapping up here. The urgent need for blood donations. We learned that one child is still in critical condition, one child and adult still in serious condition. I also learned that one child took a gunshot blast to the back, according to officials, while covering their friend during the shooting. We heard one of the witnesses talk about that yesterday. One of the kids who was inside that church at the time of the shooting talk about that, his friend doing that. So we're continuing to learn some new details and continuing to follow up on this tragedy out of Minnesota, where you also heard officials from the hospital say just moments ago that there were a lot of gunshot wounds that were designed to kill people, and they are very thankful that it has not been worse than it already is. Certainly terrible enough as things stand now. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we still have more to get to, so keep it here live on Fox Local.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look right now inside this FEMA Review Council meeting. This is a group of people that was put together by President Trump to advise on the existing abilities of FEMA and also recommend some changes. Who you see right now is Kevin Guthrie, who is the Executive Director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. He is speaking right now some of what they have found after doing some listening sessions and asking people what they want and need from federal assistance when it comes to disaster recovery. Let's go ahead and listen in live as Kevin Guthrie speaks.
Many emphasize the need to receive financial assistance more quickly, but hesitate about block grants based on previous experiences such as Section 428 of the Stafford Act. The Response and Recovery Subcommittee has spent hours, maybe even days, exploring ways to accelerate local recovery through direct funding for public and individual assistance. Every disaster is different, and each state, local, tribe, and territory will manage it differently. As our tribal partners pointed out here in this room on Tuesday, there are cultural, building material, artistical, economical issues that are different as far as the East is from the West. And our system has to recognize that and be supportive in those specific responses and recoveries. Our goal is to identify federal minimum standards for recovery funding, while giving the states the flexibility to chart the best path forward for their communities and their citizens. The last part of that mantra is locally executed. Responsibility for the response and recovery of a disaster clearly rests with the local government officials and residents. During the Los Angeles listening session, one of the local elected mayors emphasized that local officials should have more responsibility and decision-making authority. We agree, and there are ways we can help locals be better prepared for their incidents. For example, in Florida, communities are required to develop a comprehensive emergency management plan. These plans are essential for any disaster, but they mean absolutely nothing if the local government employees and even the local community are not trained to implement and utilize them effectively. Local emergency managers should be properly trained and qualified for their positions to ensure plans translate into action. Alongside their elected officials, they are the leaders to get through a disaster. Local communities should be investing in themselves to be prepared for the disasters they know will come. This is accomplished not only through training and exercises, but also by addressing financial preparedness with the support of insurance and disaster relief funding. Communities should prepare residents and visitors by promptly providing clear information about potential hazards and threats, along with guidance on how to stay safe and prepared. While I'm the co-chair with NIM on the Response and Recovery Subcommittee, I would be remiss if I did not share one of the most talked about portions of our listening sessions, and that's mitigation. During every single listening session, at least one person has emphasized the importance of mitigation. I will say that mitigation is probably and perhaps the most misunderstood vertical of emergency management. Mitigation saves lives. It protects property. It reduces cost in future disasters. Oklahoma Director Annie McVest and Arkansas Director AJ Gary discussed in this room this week how safe rooms and flood controls have saved hundreds, if not thousands of lives from deadly tornadoes and floods in the Midwest. Mitigation makes sense when you can rebuild and recover. However, it is very, very hard sell to strengthen something existing that is unaffected, as the return on investment may be unrealized. Mitigation has to be locally executed at that local level. By local, I mean not just local government, but all the way down to homeowners and business owners. There is a responsibility there that they must take. This looks like building code standards and best practices, such as not building in a floodway or at least building above the floodway, homeowners purchasing flood protection devices, hardening and maintaining their homes. Mitigation must go further than just asking for federal funds. State and locals must invest in their communities to stay resilient. In closing, I'm going to lead with this, and we've done this week. It's time to have an honest conversation with ourselves as emergency management directors. NIM posed a question this week, and he asked the states that were represented in the room this week in a closed listening session, how many of you depend on your sustainment funding of at least 50% at the state level? All those in this room said at least 50%, and it went much higher than that. No other public safety-centric agency at the state or local level depends on 50% or more of their funding coming from the federal government. States and locals should be investing in themselves instead of shifting responsibility of sustainment onto the federal government. A scary thought is 6 U.S. Code 821, Section 3A and B defines a catastrophic event, and this country has never experienced it by definition. Never. We've had some really, really bad disasters, but we've conditioned ourselves that now a 10 out of 10 is actually probably more like a 6, 7, or 8 on that scale. We have not experienced the maximum of maximums, but we have to be ready for that day. Each state faces unique hazards. State-driven investment allows for the solutions that are tailored to the specific needs rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all federal program. When citizens see their state investing directly in preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation, it builds confidence in government. It fosters stronger community resilience. Furthermore, communities that are prepared and supported by state resources can bounce back much more quickly instead of waiting for federal programs to activate. Every community has different vulnerabilities. State-driven investments help address those local issues. By funding, training, outreach, local preparedness initiatives, and mitigation, states can foster a culture where citizens know their risk and how to act before the disaster strikes. I am proud to see the progress of this council, Governor, and making thoughtful recommendations to the President. I want to personally thank the designated federal officer, Patrick Powers, and his staff. They truly are the backbone of a lot of this work that is going on, keeping us on track and dedicating countless hours to transcribing, researching, and collecting data that drives the council's efforts. I want to thank my partner, Nim Kidd, Mark Cooper, and Bob Fenton for their support on this. We could not do it without each other. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Secretary Noem, Secretary Hegseth, and President Trump for your commitment and leadership to this council.
Florida Division of Emergency Management Executive Director Kevin Guthrie wrapping up his remarks at this FEMA Review Council meeting. There has been a lot of talk about a potential shift to the structure of FEMA, putting some more responsibility on the states and that kind of thing. We also know that earlier this week, more than 180 current and former FEMA employees signed a letter criticizing cuts to FEMA and expressing concern about the capacity of that agency to respond to a bad disaster at this point. According to multiple reports since that letter was published, according to the Washington Post, the Associated Press, some others now, a number of those employees who signed that letter have since been put on leave. So this just part of these ongoing conversations about the future of FEMA and disaster recovery. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon now, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A candidate for Groveland City Council is behind bars this morning after being arrested yesterday after investigators say there was a road rage incident that turned violent. Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has the story.
The road rage incident happened last week, which was the same week that James O'Neill found himself on the November ballot after winning the primary for a seat on the Groveland City Council. Officials say this happened Friday of last week, but O'Neill was arrested last night according to the Lake County Sheriff's Office. According to the police report, a man named as the victim forgot something at home and quickly backed up to go and get it. That's when he claims O'Neill pulled up and began yelling at him. The victim says he tried to leave several times but couldn't because O'Neill was blocking his path with his car. The report goes on to say the victim and O'Neill both got out of their cars and O'Neill headbutted the victim. O'Neill told police it was an accident, but the responding officer says it seems unlikely due to the injuries the victim left with. The victim did not press charges, but does plan to file a lawsuit against O'Neill later today, according to a post his lawyer put on Facebook. O'Neill is now charged with aggravated battery and false imprisonment. His first court appearance will be later today. His lawyer also released a statement saying that he is in fact the victim and he was just defending himself. Reporting in Winter Springs, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we're kicking off the UCF football season tonight and hoping that weather cooperates.
Oh my goodness, I know. We were joking earlier, Garrett, that it would be great to have these games instead of at 7 p.m., have it at 7 a.m. Obviously, that wouldn't be possible with everybody's schedules, but at least that's a time when thunderstorms are at least likely during the day this time of year. And today at 7 p.m., we have a likely chance for thunderstorms. Hopefully it does not affect game play. It is a season home opener there at the Bounce House. Well, we start with a beautiful view from the Evermore Resort, where it's 83 degrees at this 11 o'clock hour with beautiful blue water, just a nice place to be. It looks like something out of the Caribbean, and it's right here in our backyard. Also in our backyard is a front, which is strewn across North Florida, the same front that yesterday brought us slightly drier air. Today has allowed the floodgates for the muggy air to return and the rain chances to follow. So we've got a likely chance for rain today between 4 and 7 p.m. at a 60% chance after a quiet midday and quiet early afternoon. But after 3 o'clock, that's when the storms are going to kick back in, and that's when we'll get into a likely chance for some what could be impactful rains, especially as we look ahead at the UCF game today over in the Orange County, Seminole County line there off McCullough there by the Bounce House. So we're looking at an evening though where we're going to kind of cool things down into the upper 70s once the rain passes. This is going to be day one of a multi-day high rain chance. It'll take us right into Labor Day weekend. Speaking of Labor Day weekend, a lot of people are going to be going to the beach. It is the unofficial end of the summer season. Of course, effectively here in Florida, the summer season doesn't end for many more weeks, but here it is. The beaches looking beautiful. The water not as rough as it's been, and that's going to reduce the rip current risk. 85 degrees, the current temperature there. We're going to warm up today into the upper 80s. There is still a moderate risk for rip currents, but waves are down to 1 to 2 feet. There's no more hurricane swell to worry about at this point, but there will be a high rain chance straight through this Labor Day weekend. So here's your beach forecast. We're going to go from 86 today really right on through the weekend. I mean, every day is going to be about the same, but look at the rain chances. A 70% chance for tomorrow, an 80% chance for Saturday and Sunday, and an 80% chance on Monday. Now, it's not going to rain all day at the beaches, but all afternoon and evening there will be a likely chance for it, so you'll want to really watch out for the lightning threat. Otherwise, we'll have mornings featuring some bright sunshine like what we've got now, but the humidity will be impossible to ignore. And using our exclusive Fox weather model, we look ahead to future clouds and radar, and we're likely to see the first storms today developing right about 3 o'clock. They will be isolated in nature and primarily driven by the sea breeze on the Atlantic. As we push through 5 o'clock, about commute time on this Thursday afternoon, sea breeze will push a little bit farther inland, and that's all pretty typical stuff, but that would mean we'd have a higher chance for rain in Sanford, Orlando, Oviedo, and St. Cloud and Kissimmee. By 7 o'clock, that's when we'll have outflow boundaries. That's the cold wind you feel sometimes blowing from thunderstorms, interacting with other boundaries and creates new thunderstorms. Point being here that it looks like it's all going to come to a head around 6 to 8 p.m. for the most likely chance for rain, and that will be right about the time that the UCF game is kicking off against the team from Alabama, Jacksonville State, and that would be the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, not to be confused with South Carolina's team, the Gamecocks as well. As far as the rain goes, though, it looks like after 8 o'clock it'll start to dissipate, and we could have a couple of stronger storms featuring damaging wind gusts as the primary threat, as well as frequent lightning. The old saying with football, as we look at our football forecast with 83 at the tailgate and 79 degrees at halftime, is you can play in the rain, you just can't play in the lightning. And it looks like, unfortunately, the rain today will be associated with thunderstorm activity, so lightning will be unavoidable if you find yourself in an area of rain. But here's the thing, looking ahead to this Labor Day weekend, for today's rain, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, cumulatively, when you add it all together, we could easily see rain totals between 2 and 5 inches plus through this period of time. Some areas could see upwards of 8 inches of rain. most of it favored east of Orlando toward the Atlantic coast. So keep that in mind as well for travel plans around the state. You're more likely on the Gulf Coast to have quiet conditions. All right, it's time for your tropical update. We're looking at a disturbance coming in off of Africa. It's a tropical wave, and the National Hurricane Center is tracking it with a 20% chance to develop. The next name on the list is Gabrielle. This one is unlikely to develop. The conditions are simply not that favorable at this point, but there is a potential we could at least see a short-lived tropical storm sometime in the next week. There are no threats to the U.S. Now, as far as the hurricane season in general, we're only about 12 to 15 days away from what would be considered the statistical peak of the hurricane season. Now, that happens officially on September 10th, but this peak period continues through October 10th. And if you remember last year, we had a big lull where almost the entire month of August was dead quiet, and then it was followed by an incredible train of hurricanes. Hopefully we don't have the same situation this year, but it is common that you have these lulls in the activity before things really ramp up. And let's just say this, a lot of people on social media are saying, oh, the hurricane season's over. It's done. We're getting cold fronts now. But all I can say to that is ignore the hype, just like you would for seeing a future computer model showing some cataclysm that it's just unconfirmed. At this point, we cannot let our guard down. The hurricane season is far from over. And the best thing we can do is monitor it every week as we do and take action accordingly. The good news, though, is we don't have any threats anytime near, but that could change quickly. Let's look at your tropical update. All right, let's talk about the forecast in general, the 7-day forecast. You know, we're all talking about the Labor Day weekend, of course, and this is going to be one that is very rainy season-like, where you have sunshine in the morning and then storms in the afternoon. A 70% chance of rain Saturday and Sunday in Orlando and a 60% chance on Monday. So my only advice would be if you got outdoor activities, beach plans, boating plans, just stay close to the forecast and stay close to your free Fox 35 Storm Team app where you can check out the real-time radar to make sure you don't have any storms creeping up on you and putting a damper on your plans.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to know that, and so keep those apps handy. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure as always. Thank you, Garrett.
As we go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, leave you with this view of downtown Orlando on this Thursday afternoon. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is 12:22 right now. That means we are, 6.5 hours away from kickoff in the UCF Jacksonville State game. And that will also kick off a new season for the Knights, and really a new era with a new head coach at the helm, a lot of new players on the team as well. And I had the chance to speak with Sean Green, who is the host of Charge On, a UCF football podcast, to break down tonight's matchup and the excitement about this new season.
It's exciting. It's exciting to not have to talk about everything but football for 260-something days. So it is really exciting to finally be here in the new Scott Frost era.
And it is the start of a new era. I think that's a good way of putting it. Trying to really turn the page after what was a disappointing last season. A lot of new faces, coaching staff on the roster. So what do you want to see from the Knights tonight as they do kind of kick off this new era?
Obviously this is a tougher game than in previous first games, right? In previous years. I think what I really just want to see from the team as a whole is, I think it's my favorite word over the last 6 months on here and everywhere, is consistency. Come out, be consistent, don't turn over the football, put up some points, and have a defense that everybody's really high on. Stop a Jack State team that, like I said, is a little bit more challenging than some of the teams that you've played in years past. If they do that, if they are consistent and they go out and kind of prove that they are the superior team, I think everybody can take something away and be happy about it. But if they kind of struggle a little bit, that's where you kind of hold your breath and say, okay, what is this team actually going to do this season?
Cam Fancher, the starting quarterback, the QB1 for this Knights team. What does he need to do tonight?
It's very simple. Don't turn over the football. And I think it's not just as simple as that. Like KJ Jefferson last year, he played New Hampshire, right? And you watched him in the first game and you knew immediately, oh, this is probably not the KJ Jefferson we think we're getting. That he was really rough, and it was a rough watch against a really inferior opponent. I think Cam Fancher really just needs to come out and prove to people why he got the starting job. If he comes out and he struggles, then that's just going to make everybody question it even more. People are already questioning it. Why did Cam Fancher get quarterback 1? He was supposed to be quarterback 3. Why is he in this position? You need to kind of, at the end of the day, you need to prove your teammates right, but you need to prove the fans that you are the guy. So don't turn over the football, have a couple highlight plays, throw a couple touchdowns, and be a good game manager. If you show that, then I think people can get on board. But if you start to try to do too much, that's where I think things can get a little out of sorts a little bit.
Yeah, is there a risk that there's that they do fall into that hole and maybe feel some more pressure than they normally would on an opening game against a lesser opponent because, as you said, they are playing Jacksonville State. There are some expectations that we want to see to kick off this kind of new season in this new era.
I would say probably for the quarterback specifically, yes. I think for the rest of the team, I'm actually pretty confident that they're going to really come in and play free and not have so much baggage on their shoulders. Because, again, for them, you have to understand, like we've been talking about, nobody in the country believes UCF is going to do anything this season. So if I'm, on the defensive line, I'm trying to prove that I can go sack the quarterback. If I'm a wide receiver, I'm trying to prove that, hey, I may not have a lot of game reps, but I can go out and catch some balls and be a playmaker. For the quarterbacks, it's a little bit different. It's, yes, nobody's expecting you to do anything, but you also just went through this long, strenuous quarterback battle, and the guy that won, nobody expected to win. So I think there's going to be, to your point, a little added pressure there, not just with it being the first game, not with it being First Frost 2. It's, hey, I need to go out and maybe prove why I got the job. So that's where, to your point, it could get a little messy if they're not right on their P's and Q's.
Now we know how big of a role the running game was for this team last year. Obviously, a big hole to fill with R.J. Harvey being drafted by the Broncos. But Miles Montgomery going to step up this year into to that kind of lead role. What does the running backs need to do to kind of take some of that pressure off of Cam Fancher?
Yeah, you bring up a great point. Like, at the end of the day, the best way to kind of take the pressure off quarterback is to have a solid run game. And Miles Montgomery showed in spurts last year that he can be the guy. Scott Frost said in a press conference earlier this week that Miles Montgomery right now is the leader in the offense. When have you heard that the running back is the leader of an offense? So I think he's really accepted that role. He's taken on that role, and he's finally getting the opportunity. He is a senior, and this is his first time being RB1 on the depth chart. So I think he's been waiting for this moment. And to your point, like in a Scott Frost offense and a good offense, a running back by committee approach is great. So you have a guy like Jaden Nixon kind of backing him up, who a lot of people in the country respect and are looking forward to seeing him play. I think that's where you can really take, to your point, pressure off of Cam Fancher and really open things up for the offense.
So just bottom line for us, what you want to see tonight from this team and what you think we will see tonight from this team.
Very simply, a win, but not just a win, a dominant win. And a dominant win doesn't need to be like last year where it was like 57-3. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be where you are by far and away superior than the opponent you're facing. You don't really have many mistakes. There's no point in the game where you feel, oh, this is getting a little too close for comfort, or, oh, they're not really performing that well. You are just the more dominant team. That's what I want to see. What I think we'll see, I think we'll get a little bit of that. But I do think there are going to be some bumps tonight. Like I said, Jack State, they've got a really good staff over there. They've got some good players. Their defensive line, a lot of the guys are returning. I think that can create some maybe potential problems for UCF. Again, I don't want to scare UCF fans. I don't expect a loss tonight, but I just want to make sure that it's not going to be like the previous years. There are going to be a couple bumps tonight, but if UCF can just come out and stay consistent throughout, I'm sure we'll be talking about a UCF win shortly.
You got a final score prediction?
You know, on the podcast, I said 31-7. I'm going to switch that to 31-14. I think they're going to be able to put up a couple more points on UCF. But this defense, with everybody's, speaking so highly on the UCF defense, that's why I originally had 7 points. Because I'm like, if they're going to come out and be dominant, I would expect less than 10 points or just a touchdown. But I'll say 31-14 just to make myself feel a little better.
Hey, regardless, college football is back, and that is something to be excited about no matter what happens.
Exactly. I'm excited.
We are tracking breaking news here on Fox 35 News Plus and a traffic alert for you. This is a live look right now on I-4. You can see the westbound lanes are shut down, completely blocked off by emergency crews right now. Unclear what might have happened. It appears there's some sort of crash. You can see some debris there, but again, we don't know. We don't have any details about this incident, but we do know that traffic is backed up on westbound I-4. This is between mile markers 104 and 108, where it is closed, and officials are saying that traffic backup goes for several miles. The eastbound lanes are blocked. You see the shoulder is the eastbound lanes are open, I should say, but the left shoulder is blocked there by a couple of emergency vehicles, and so things are moving a little slowly eastbound, but it is bumper to bumper, not moving at all westbound. So if you're going to be heading through Volusia County on I-4 westbound, that is certainly something to keep in mind. You're going to want to avoid that area. This is near Lake Monroe, to give you an idea as well. But major traffic impacts there, as you can see, that all 3 lanes at the moment are blocked. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look at the White House press briefing room, where we do expect to hear from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt coming up around 1 o'clock. We will bring that to you live here on Fox Local. Meanwhile, this morning here in Orlando, there was a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new Lynx bus station in Pine Hills. This was a collaboration between Lynx and FDOT, a new $18 million transfer center. We heard from Mayor Demings there, as well as U.S. Congressman Maxwell Frost and Orange County Commissioner Mike Scott at that event just a little bit ago.
Almost 2 years ago, we stood on this very ground. I think a lot of us were ankle deep in dirt to break ground and share the vision that we have been working with the Pine Hills community for over 5 years to get this going. The Pine Hills Transfer Center is an investment in our Lynx riders in a space designed for convenience, safety, and accessibility. It's modern, it's built for the future. Riders will no longer need to go downtown to make transfers. It means shorter travel times, more direct access to jobs, school, health cares, and others. In fact, earlier this week, one of our customers sent us a note thanking this for the facility. It's saving him 35 minutes in his commute. So it is already changing lives, and that is not trite by any means.
This station has been years in the making, and we wouldn't be here celebrating this special occasion if it weren't for the advocacy and work of people all across government, electeds, partners, organizations, companies, but also community advocates and organizers. So let's give them a round of applause as well. This transfer station in Pine Hills is huge because it brings accessible transit right to the people's neighborhood, making it easier for folks to get to where they want to go when they need to get there. And it's how communities like Pine Hills are going to grow stronger, safer, and more connected. This station is about making sure that folks can get to work on time, kids can get to school, seniors can go to their doctor's appointments without having to spend a lot of money on transportation and save time on their commutes. Pine Hills deserves safe, affordable, reliable transit just like anywhere else in Central Florida. And when we invest in transfer stations like the one that we're standing right in front of us, we're also investing in our community's future and in the opportunity and well-being of neighborhoods, neighbors, and working families. Because everybody wants in Orlando where it's easy to get around our community. And this transfer station represents that commitment to build a better Central Florida for all of our people. On Capitol Hill, I'm continuing to fight for more federal investment in public transportation and public transit. I recently introduced the Transit Bus Affordability Act to figure out why buses are so damn expensive and how we as a federal government can do more work to make them more affordable. I'm proud to say that thanks to bipartisan support, that work and that legislation is moving forward as we speak. Because we need more wins like today, not just here in Pine Hills, but across the entire nation.
Good morning to all of you. Let me begin by saying thank you to Congressman Frost. We look forward to you continuing to fight to send federal dollars back to our area to address the myriad of issues that we have. Let me also say congratulations to Tiffany Humler Hawkins for the work that her team with Lynx has done to deliver this project on time and on budget. Thank you so much for that as well. But as a lifelong resident of this community, I do remember a time when my family relied on public transit as our primary mode of transportation. When my mother would work various places to clean houses and to clean offices, sometimes she would take a different one of her children with her. We would go in the evenings to clean the offices by taking the public transit system. And so I know what it means for a family to have access to reliable, well-connected transit. But we can't solve the myriad of housing challenges that we have and housing affordability if we don't also address the direct housing challenges that we have. And so in Orange County, we have created the first housing trust fund where we have committed over a 10-year period of time to spending at least $160 million right here nearby. We have multifamily housing units for seniors and others that we have been a partner in building to make certain that those individuals have direct access in immediate proximity to where they're living. And so Orange County is here today having invested about $1.9 million of taxpayer dollars into this project to make it a success. I know that my colleague from the Board of County Commission, Christine Moore, you'll hear from in just a few moments. She shares the overall goals that we have as a county to improve transit within our community. We still need, really, to be honest with you, a dedicated funding source. We are one of the primary funding sources for Links. I have the privilege of serving on the Links board. I have been chair of the board at one point, continue to really fight for broad-based access to our transit system. So you can look forward to that continuing in the future. With the creation of this transfer station, there were a number of jobs that have been created. This is certainly directly in close proximity to our high school here, Evans High School, and other schools nearby in the area that really serves the youth in our community. This is a good, safe way for them to get around and augment the school bus system that Orange County Public Schools provides. The Pine Hills Transfer Center exemplifies what happens when we invest in infrastructure that prioritizes people's needs. Safer intersections, bike trail connections, and modern facilities will help us meet the needs of today's riders and tomorrow's growth. Investing in accessible and affordable transportation for our residents is certainly one of my top priorities.
And I hope you'll drive out Belco Drive and look at the trail. We have done a magnificent job, and thanks to federal funding and the advocacy of Orange County Parks and Rec, we will, with this trail section here, which will connect to the Pine Hills Trail, get us all the way up to the Coast to Coast Trail, which is very prestigious. People travel from all over the world to cross Florida on that Coast to Coast Trail. And so today we're a little bit closer to connecting to that Coast to Coast Trail. Multimodal options allow residents and visitors to choose how they move, by foot, by bike, or even by bus. It's a healthier and more sustainable option for families who live, work, and play here in Pine Hills. I want to thank all the community partners again, planners, neighbors, who work together to make this a part of the larger Orange County vision. Together, we're shaping a future of mobility that works for everyone.
You know, when I was 15 years old, I caught Link 37 right there on Hiawassee, and I bagged groceries at Winn-Dixie that's now an Aldi. And I was making $5.15 an hour. So then when I turned 16, I was able to catch Link 37 again to Universal, where I was making $6.40 an hour. I was rich then. The point that I'm making is the most amazing gift you can give someone is time. And with the opening of this shelter, this gives more time. You'll see buses come quicker. You'll see transfers come quicker. You'll see connectivity, because just up there you have not only the Central Florida Urban League, but you have the Pine Hills Neighborhood Center for Children and Families. So when you talk about access, creating memories, moments, and opportunities for families, that's what we're doing here. And I'm so grateful to Tiffany, the Links team, for putting this together. And, you know, Mayor, Commissioner, and Congressman talked about collaboration and time. I'm happy to be joined by now Clerk Russell, but she used to be Commissioner District 6, Tiffany Moore Russell, and she looked way better at me doing it, you know, way better than me. But it is a long labor, but a labor of love, and I'm grateful to celebrate this with you, and thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is a live look inside the Brady briefing room in the White House, where we are expecting a briefing around 1 o'clock from Caroline Leavitt. Obviously expecting some reaction to yesterday's shooting in Minneapolis, so we will be standing by for that. But in the meantime, until that briefing begins, I do want to play for you some remarks from Governor Ron DeSantis last night in Champions Gate. He spoke at the 2025 Florida Governors Conference on Tourism that's being held there. It's a Visit Florida conference this weekend that's talking about the latest trends, opportunities, and strategies for Florida's tourism industry. We know how much that means to the state, how important it is for our area. And here is what Governor DeSantis had to say last night.
We're excited about everything going on in Florida, including we have the start of college football season this weekend. You're going to see some Alabama fans invading Tallahassee. You're also going to see some Notre Dame fans invading Miami on Sunday night. And we got a lot of other good games throughout the course of the year. So we're excited about that. I mean, my wife and I, the summer was fun. You get to the point, we've got a third grader, second grader, and a kindergartner. You know, you get Memorial Day, you have fun, June, July, and then you get into August, and it's like, when is school going to start again? And they're back in, so we've got that sense of normalcy. But we're still clicking on all cylinders in Florida, particularly with our tourism. I mean, I think if you look, you know, Brian had articulated some of the things that we've seen in the state of Florida, but our economy has been rated #1 in the entire nation 3 years in a row by CNBC. And that's a huge deal. For 57 months in a row, our unemployment rate has been lower than the national average. We have a AAA credit rating on every major ratings agencies. And I think the federal government, they just came out, one of them a double A minus or something like that. So we're AAA across the board. Brian mentioned we lead in new business formations nationwide. And we've added jobs, private sector employers, 58 of the last 63 months since May of 2020. And obviously, we had a little bump in the road when COVID hit. It caused a lot of problems in our society. There was a lot of overreaction on the part of government. And our role in Florida was really to bring some rationality to this. Because the idea that Dr. Fauci can say we're just going to have to sit in our homes and not do anything until somehow there's a vaccine created or the virus goes away, that was not in the cards. That would have destroyed this state had we followed his dictates. And so I had to make decisions very early on, and we work with many of the people in this room to say, listen, it's a serious thing. No one's taking it lightly, but you can't just shut down society. That's doing more harm than anything by doing that. So we made it very clear in Florida, everybody has a right to work, everybody has a right to operate their businesses, and every kid has a right to be in school in person. And that was not something that got me a lot of plaudits from the media, from my political opponents, but even people within my own party. We were kind of on an island. We were leading against the grain, cutting against the hysteria, but I had as a leader to look at the data. I had to make these decisions, what I thought not was what was in my best interest, not what I could do to save my hide, but what I could do to save the jobs of the people I was elected to serve. And so, you know, we had some rough going in terms of the blowback we received for all those decisions, but then, you know, a few weeks, months later, all of a sudden, you know, the eyes of the country and even the world all descended on Florida. You didn't like how you were being treated in Chicago? You come to Florida. You didn't like how you're treated in California? People come to Florida. So we became the place where, yes, a lot of people picked up and moved, but even to just get away from it. And I would never forget seeing people that say, oh, thank you, I'm here for 2 weeks, it's so much better. It was almost like living in a different world. I mean, I remember going to 30A in like May of 2020. You wouldn't have even known COVID existed if you were on 38. I mean, they were just living. They were doing what they wanted to do. So, and you know, we're here in Orlando. We obviously have major theme parks. And how is it that the theme parks in Orlando could be open and then in California they're closed for like a year or more? What was why? It was just basically leadership and basically giving people an opportunity to put food on the table for their families. And so it was a huge contrast. But what that really did was, in Florida, look, we were well governed going into that. We had done a lot of good stuff early in my tenure, but that really separated us from so many other places in this country. And the trajectory, the economic growth, the budget surpluses, you name it, really went off like a rocket ship. And at the time, people were saying Florida was going to be the worst off because of tourism and everything. And when you have something like that, it was going to impact. And we ended up having situations where we had new opportunities and people were able to reach new heights. And so I'm fortunate that we were put in a position to be able to stand up for people when it counts. But if we had not done that, if we had not been open during those critical time period during COVID, this state would have probably never recovered from that ordeal. It was a very fragile situation. We trusted in the people, and ultimately the dividends were paid off in spades, and now we're the envy of the country. So thank you for your role in that, because I know it was important. And so we've got a lot going on in Florida. As I mentioned, #1 economy, #1 higher education, all these different things. But, you know, the tourism industry is really a great lifeblood for this state. It's a way, obviously, to produce a lot of jobs for people, which we appreciate, a lot of businesses. And, you know, people will think like, oh, you know, the Universal, like, and obviously it's cool. They have the new park or, you know, whatever theme park you want to talk about. But, like, there's so many other things that grow out from having something like that. All these small businesses that end up doing work and all the stuff that went in. Just think of what went into creating Epic Universe, all the people that were employed as a result of doing all that. So the tourism, and when people think of, like, the attractions, it's not just the big names, it's so many other small and medium-sized businesses that really are able to do very well. And so I totally get that. We also have the best coastline that any state has. I mean, from, you know, Pensacola all the way around, back up the peninsula to Jacksonville, and Amelia Island and all that. You know, we've got some great places, and so people are able to go and enjoy themselves. And I've always, I mean, it's like, look, I've been around to other parts of the country, and there's some great parts, but, you know, you go to a place like Destin, or where I grew up in Pinellas County, and you look at the beaches there, I mean, they're just better than where you go in other parts of the country. So people like that. They come, they do that. We're very good on events, and we're proud of all the events we have. I mean, I mentioned college football and everything like that, but, you know, we have the Formula One race in Miami now every year. Things like the Daytona 500 draw a lot of people. We've got a number of PGA golf tournaments, and they just announced they're going back to Miami at the Trump Doral starting in 2026. So we do that, and people come, and we're going to have the national championship college football game at Hard Rock Stadium in January. So there's always great things going on, and it's really been a great lifeblood for this for the state. But I'll tell you what it allows for is it allows us to be one of the lowest tax states in all of these United States, because our visitors pay a lot of the taxes that we end up doing. Why not? And so we're now in a situation where, you know, we're proud of the stuff that's happened. You know, we obviously have a great head of steam, but we've also lived through an inflationary period nationwide. We've lived through a period where housing prices really went up dramatically, and part of that was because people wanted to come to Florida, but truth be told, they went up everywhere around the country. Even the states that people were leaving on net still had an increase in housing prices. And so, and that can be good for people if you own and now it's worth more and you sell it, then okay, fine, you made some money, you built some equity. But for folks that own their homes and then they bought it for $400,000 and now all of a sudden they're told it's $800,000, well, they pay more in property taxes as a result of that. It's basically an unrealized gain where someone just tells you your property's worth more than what you paid for it, so then you got to pony up more and pay taxes to the local government. So we want to do something about that. So we've launched an initiative, and it's going to be something that the legislature is going to have to consider and place on the 2026 ballot, because it does require constitutional reform. It's not something that the state controls. It's a local issue, and it's in Florida's Constitution. But I believe the free state of Florida should mean no income tax, and I also think it should mean your personal residence, that homesteaded residence, should be yours free and clear of the government. You shouldn't have to pay rent to the government just to live in your own house. Now, it's kind of like just embedded that, you have all these property taxes, but I will tell you, the state of Florida is the only one that has a chance to actually do something big because we have so much of the tax burden that is shouldered by non-residents. And if we were almost any other state, I don't even think it would be conceivable, but we're going to have a very robust proposal that is going to be very meaningful for a lot of people in this state. Our senior citizens on fixed income who've owned their home and maybe bought it 30 years ago, and now they're being told they got to pay more and more. But also young families who are just starting out, buy their first home, and then this way they're not saddled with those costs every single year. So because Florida is a place that attracts people, and not just who will take a week or two vacation, we've got snowbirds. They said that the Canadians were going to stop coming to Florida. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't think that's true. Because who would want to be in Canada in the winter or spring when you could be in Florida? Like, if you can get here, you want to get here. And so we have the numbers. And then there was a lot of other doomsday about people don't want to come to the United States, period. They've called on boycotting Florida for, I don't know, they've done that for many years, these groups, and we always end up breaking records after they do it. So I should ask you, maybe I should put them on the payroll and ask them to keep doing that. But they were saying, people aren't going to want to come to America, this, that, or the other thing. So the second quarter of the year, 2025, we had a record-breaking number of 34.4 million visitors to the state of Florida. And that includes 31.5 million American visitors, 2.3 million overseas visitors, and 640,000 Canadian visitors. And I knew that they would come. And so we continue to attract people to do that. And I think that this is part of the reason why we're even having a discussion about giving people generationally significant property tax relief. Now, I will tell you, Visit Florida. I would, there'd be maybe there'd be a storm, right? Maybe there'd be something else that would happen, and the media would act like this has crippled the entire state, right? I mean, it's like, they'll show this, and then people think, maybe not go to Florida. No. Even when we have storm, you still have so much of it that doesn't miss a beat, and even the places that get hit, we work hard to get them back up. We had the fastest power restoration after Hurricane Milton, 4.2 million in a matter of days. So we're all about that. But what Visit Florida can do is really put out the truth on this, make sure that people know that Florida is open for business, and to overcome some of the negativity that may be out there. We actually looked at this during COVID, and it just shows you, people are a lot smarter than sometimes they're given credit for, because no state got more consistently hostile media coverage in the national media than Florida. I mean, they made it sound like it was just terrible. You have this governor putting kids in school, how nuts, all this stuff, going against Dr. Fauci. And so that was it. And it was billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of hostile coverage. And yeah, some of it was just about me trying to hit me, but a lot of it was just saying Florida is like a problem. And they did that. And obviously it wasn't true. Now we started, doing very well in tourism anyways, but you can imagine, remember when they had the oil spill 15 years ago? Yeah, that was significant, no question. But the idea that somehow you wouldn't go to Orlando or Miami or Amelia Island because of that, but people thought that somehow this was just everywhere and that was happening. So Visit Florida, I think, can serve an important role in making sure that we get our communities back on, that people realize that Florida is open for business, and that we're able to overcome any misperceptions that may be out there. Now, we're fortunate. We've got a great brand in terms of people always want to come for the warm weather, for the theme parks, all these other things. And I can tell you, when they opened the new theme park at Universal Epic Universe, it was a huge, huge deal internationally to have a new theme park come on the scene. And so I think you're going to continue to see benefits in this area from having that. So all this stuff is to say we got to keep this going. This is really important for so many people whose livelihoods depend on everything that people do in this room. But it also is something, and I learned this more personally during COVID when I would talk to people who would be in, and I'd find people that were strangers that I didn't know from other states, and they would just thank me profusely. And I'm like, what did I do? They're like, Florida was the place where I was able to go and regain my sanity. I was able to be here, my family, my kids. They needed a break from the madness. We came to Florida, and Florida served that role for us. So we're proud of our residents here. We're proud of the folks that work in the industry, but we're also proud that we've been able to be a source of happiness for so many families, not just throughout the United States, but throughout the world. So keep up the good work. Enjoy the games this weekend, and God bless you all. Thanks so much.
As Governor DeSantis speaking last night, we are standing by for this White House press briefing to start any minute now. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and then we will get you right inside that briefing room. So keep it right here on Fox Local, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. We are awaiting a briefing from the press secretary at the White House. We expect that to begin any minute now. So we will go ahead and listen in here and wait for that briefing to begin and bring that to you live here on Fox Local.
Good afternoon. Good to see all of you. I want to begin today's briefing by addressing the horrific shooting that took place yesterday at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a deranged shooter opened fire during morning mass, killing an innocent 8-year-old and 10-year-old. 14 other children and 3 adults were also injured during this horrible tragedy. This was the first morning mass of the school year for these beautiful, innocent children, and this sacred religious service was desecrated by an evil monster. We are all eternally grateful to the heroic law enforcement officers and first responders whose courage and swift response aided all of those impacted by this horrible tragedy. As Director Kash Patel confirmed yesterday, the FBI is currently investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday following his call with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-mast. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join all of us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. The White House and the FBI will continue to provide further updates as they become available. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for you today. The President will travel to New York City on September 22nd to address the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, September 23rd. On another matter, as Americans make their Labor Day weekend travel plans, they will be able to enjoy 5-year low gas prices thanks to President Trump fully unleashing American energy dominance. President Trump ended Joe Biden's Green New Scam policies and is delivering on his promise to make America affordable again. These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month, which is the exact opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. And as we commemorate Labor Day this year, we finally have a president who fights and delivers for the American worker every single day. President Trump believes that American workers are the heart and soul of our economy and our national identity, which is why he's championed an agenda that puts them first always. For decades, the hardworking men and women of our country who built the greatest nation in world history were sold out by selfish, greedy, short-sighted globalists who put our country on a path to economic and cultural ruin. They hollowed out our factories and towns and betrayed the American working class by shipping jobs overseas and importing millions of low-wage migrants to replace American workers. Under President Trump, this national disgrace is over. American workers are, once again, being put at the center of national trade policy, and the dignity of American labor is being defended. As a result, President Trump has already brought in nearly $10 trillion in new private and foreign investments so that the top businesses in the world can create high-paying jobs in America and hire American workers to fill them. In fact, since President Trump took office, the economy has added more than 500,000 new jobs to the workforce. In a stark reversal from the Biden administration, all of that job creation has been driven by private sector growth, and all employment gains have gone to native-born Americans. Wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in the past 60 years. And the average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year alone. Thanks to the largest middle tax cuts ever signed into law by President Trump, with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, Americans in all 50 states will keep more of their hard-earned money. The average American taxpayer will see a tax cut of nearly $4,000 because of these pro-growth provisions, according to analysis from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. In other news, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working, just like he said they would. And that's why on Monday, the president took additional action to sign an executive order taking steps to ensure that cashless bail in Washington, D.C. is eliminated. For too long, D.C.'s reckless cashless bail policies have allowed dangerous criminals to be quickly released, which endangers everyone who lives in and visits our wonderful capital. No cash bail has also foolishly forced law enforcement to repeatedly arrest the same offenders over and over again, only He also signed a separate executive order addressing the crime emergency in D.C. by instructing the National Park Service to hire additional United States Park Police officers to support public safety, and directing the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. to hire additional prosecutors to focus solely on violent and property crimes. So while liberal Democrats across the country continue to double down on their failed soft on crime approach, the American people, including local D.C. leadership, business owners, and residents, are rallying behind President Trump's crime crackdown. According to new polling, 81% of Americans say crime is a major problem in large cities across the country. And a clear majority of Americans believe the president's actions are justified and necessary to reduce crime in these cities. Indu Bhatia, who runs a liquor store a half mile from the White House here just down the street, is one of those Americans who are grateful for President Trump's public safety push. Indu recently told the New York Post that her store was robbed so many times that they had to spend exorbitant sums of money on security, jeopardizing her family's financial future. But thanks to President Trump's strong action, Indu said, quote, "All of my employees, including me, we feel much safer, and even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store." And just yesterday, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser credited President Trump for surging federal law enforcement personnel and said neighborhoods, quote, "feel and are much safer." We thank Mayor Bowser for her cooperation and her willingness to help us make D.C. safe and beautiful. This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years, and this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for D.C. residents than Democrats did in 50 years. And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation. As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican or a Democrat leader. He wants Americans to be safe and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community. With that, I'll take questions. Here in our new media seat today, we have social media influencer, content creator, Brandon Tatum. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of everybody that follow me, the millions of people that follow me, I want to say thank you for making the sacrifice and dealing with some of the most disingenuous people on planet Earth at times. I have two questions. The first question is associated with the shooting that occurred the other day. And I want to ask the question of, we know that it's not a gun thing. Any rational person knows it's not a gun thing. We know it's a mental health issue. So I want to know from you, what is President Trump and the White House going to do to address mental health issues around the country associated with these shootings? And the second thing is Chicago. You know, anybody with, and I say, with a connected brainstem knows that Chicago's crime is out of control. And young black men are getting killed, laying dead in the middle of the streets every single day in Chicago. No president has addressed any of these issues. And so what is the White House going to do to address issues in their capacity to deal with the conflict and violence in Chicago?
Sure. Well, to your first question about this shooting in Minnesota, right now, the administration is focused on helping the people of Minnesota. It's been less than a day, of course, since this tragedy happened. We have federal law enforcement on the ground assisting local law enforcement. This investigation is ongoing. There's still a lot of facts to understand about these circumstances. And so we're going to continue to do that. As for Chicago and cracking down on crime, it is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again. And I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago. It's a great place to live. There's no crime there. He doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ, and the statistics beg to differ. And I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like D.C., come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will. Gabe, and thanks for being here, Brandon. Gabe.
Carolyn, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director. First,
Sure.
Who will replace her? And then also, overnight the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Menard's attorney say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't, so the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission. A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the secretary very soon. And the president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
Briefly on another topic, alligator Alcatraz. Last week, a judge on an environmental concerns lawsuit said that the administration had 60 days to wind down operations there, as state officials did. Now, the administration has not been shy in fighting back against what it calls activist judges, but why is it backing down this time?
We're not backing down. We've always said that we are going to continue to fight in the court of law for what's right, because we know that what this administration is doing with respect to all policy, but also immigration policy, is above the books, and we're abiding by our nation's immigration laws. And we think it's despicable that an activist judge has inserted themselves in this migrant detention facility to the point where DHS is now having to relocate these illegal immigrants to other detention facilities around the country. That is an unnecessary burden on the Department of Homeland Security and these agents who should be removing these criminals from our community. That's what the American people elected this president to do. So we've always maintained, Gabe, we're going to comply with court orders, but we're also going to fight back on them on the merits of the law. And DHS is in compliance while we disagree with this decision, and we'll continue to fight it in court. Let's go to...
Hey,
go ahead.
Thanks so much. So just following up on the CDC firing,
Sure.
Are you anticipating other changes there at CDC in addition to that firing? And is the administration going through in a very sort of organized fashion? Is there a task force that's going through high-level appointees to see who is or isn't aligned with the mission? Like, should we expect more
Not to my knowledge. I understand there were a few other individuals who resigned after the firing of Ms. Monterez. One of those individuals wrote in his departure statement that he identifies pregnant women as pregnant people. So that's not someone who we want in this administration anyway. So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
Caroline, can I just
go to the back?
Thank you, Caroline.
Go behind you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. The military deployment that President Trump has sent to the Caribbean Sea close to the shores with Venezuela is massive. It's much more that is needed to simply counter narcotics operations. Is President Trump considering launching military strikes to military installments or facilities in Venezuelan soil?
I won't get ahead of the president with respect to any military action or questions about that ever. But what I will tell you is that many Caribbean nations and many nations in the region have applauded the administration's counter-drug operations and efforts, and the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. And as I've said from this podium before, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. He has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into our country, and it is the utmost responsibility of this president and this administration to prevent the illicit flow of drugs into our country and to protect citizens from those deadly poisons. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
My second question for you is that there have been media outlets who have glazed over the fact that the shooter was confused in their gender identity. Does the administration believe that this element needs to be investigated in the shooting?
All of the elements are being investigated in the shooting, absolutely. Which is why part of the reason the FBI director came out and immediately confirmed that facet of the investigation. John.
Thanks a lot, Carolyn. Two questions on two separate issues. First of all, the drone and missile strikes that took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end. And that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president. But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
My second question has to do with,
Lisa,
I just had one more, if I may. It has to do with the president's intention to remove Lisa Cook as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. He is going or acting upon allegations that have been made by Trump administration official Bill Pulte. These are just allegations. She hasn't been convicted yet of any crime. Is the administration opposed to allowing Ms. Cook to have due process, to challenge what has been alleged against her?
I believe she is challenging it. I believe she just filed a lawsuit today, and Mr. Pulte has deferred those allegations over to the Department of Justice to investigate them. What I will say is that you had these mortgage receipts very clearly shown to the president, and he has the cause that he needs to fire this individual. He laid it out in the letter that he provided to her and to the public as well. And so we'll continue to fight this battle. Carrie.
Hi, Caroline. So the president just announced that he wants to have a convention right before the midterms next year. The DNC has countered that they too want to have a convention right before the midterms as well. What's the White House's response to that? And can you give us just a little bit of a hint or a tease here as to how the president envisions a convention for the midterms?
Look, the president put out a statement on this earlier today. I'll let him speak further on the plans that he envisions. But efforts of this administration. And I would also point to the statement of our wonderful First Lady that she released yesterday. She wrote, "The tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates the need for preemptive intervention in identifying school shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. We encourage all Americans, as the old saying goes, if you see something, say something. If you see warning signs or threats, report it to law enforcement. This administration, federal law enforcement, will take those reports and those threats seriously. They will be treated as a law enforcement emergency, and we will act accordingly."
And on the First Lady's statement, would the administration consider ramping up resources on these fronts to parents and schools across the country to help them look into these signs and prevent more tragedies?
It's a very fair question, Iris. As for any potential future policy decisions or funding questions, it's just been over 24 hours since this tragedy occurred. Right now, we're focused on the FBI and their investigation and uncovering all the facts, and we'll leave those very important policy discussions to another day.
Thank you, Caroline.
Go ahead. Megan.
I had a question about the Lisa Cook lawsuit that you mentioned. Does the president plan to wait until that lawsuit is resolved to appoint her replacement?
I will leave that to the president to make that decision in that announcement himself. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. Bouncing off the CDC, situation at CDC, I'm curious if administration officials are pushing back on the president's agenda, privately, publicly, however, should they fear to lose their jobs going forward?
Look, I think if you're doing your job well, and if you are executing on the vision and the promises that the president made to the public who elected him back to this office, then you should have no fear about your job. Just do your job. That's what this president wants to see. He wants to see people solving problems. He wants to see the people who have the privilege of serving the American taxpayer and the federal government abiding by the wishes of the American taxpayers who overwhelmingly reelected him in this cabinet to make America great again, or in this case, make America healthy again.
On the Intel deal, where the U.S. got a stake in that company, there's two things I want to ask about that. The first is, what did the U.S. get back in return for that deal? And the second thing is, what are the future plans for giving any form of money to another company? It could be through the CHIPS Act, like this deal, or some other form of funds. What are the plans there by this White House administration?
Well, look, as you know, Brian, very well, because you cover it often, the Intel deal is still being ironed out by the Department of Commerce. The T's are still being crossed, the I's are still being dotted. It's very much still under discussion. But the president's thinking, I can share with you, is certainly to ensure that the United States government is making our country wealthy again and is benefiting from some of these deals. And it's a creative solution. I know it's outside the box thinking, which is uncommon in this city, but it's something that he proposed and something that the Secretary of Commerce is working on putting into action. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a couple questions on the shooting yesterday. The first one, this is the second shooting involving a trans-identifying shooter who specifically targeted Christians and Catholic kids. What kind of consequences do the gender-affirming therapists, doctors, or even the parents of these shooters face after these types of shootings?
Well, as for the parents and potential therapists in this case, again, all of that is still currently being investigated by the FBI. I know the Secretary of Health and Human Services this morning said that HHS is investigating perhaps links between some of these drugs and these prescription drugs that some of these minors may be taking and an increase in violence. And obviously we have mental health problems in this country that this administration and Secretary Kennedy will continue to speak out about and the work that we're doing to solve it.
Thank you. And just to follow up, I've seen a lot of calls for action, among these lawmakers saying that we shouldn't just be praying. One that I've seen on the right, actually, is calls for the FBI to institute a new class of domestic terrorism that involves trans ideology. Is that something that the administration would support?
I would have to check with the appropriate people on that.
Daniel.
Thank you, Caroline. We saw some new revised economic data come out today showing the U.S. economy moved a 3.3% clip, largely buoyed by a surge in capex. What's the White House reaction to this, and is this sort of the president's vision beginning to come to life after the Big Beautiful Bill was passed in July?
Yes, I mean, look, we did say that once the Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law, we're going to see the effects of this massive pro-growth piece of legislation. As I laid out for you as we head into the Labor Day weekend, there's many positive economic indicators that the American people can be hopeful about. But don't forget, we are reversing 4 years of reckless spending from the previous administration, of slamming regulations down the throats of American business owners and consumers across the country. But the administration is working very hard to unravel all of that and to ensure that small business owners and workers are thriving and that they have more money in their own pockets to spend. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. Back on the CDC, there was reporting that some of the initial problems between RFK and the CDC director stemmed from miscommunications or differences on vaccine policy. So I wonder if you could just say whether or not the president believes that the COVID vaccine should be available to and covered by insurance for all Americans, regardless of age and pre-existing conditions.
What I will tell you is that the FDA recently revoked the emergency youth authorizations for 3 COVID vaccinations while simultaneously greenlighting 4 new COVID-19 vaccines with 2025 and 2026 formulas. The reason for the revocation of that emergency youth authorization is because obviously the COVID pandemic and the public health emergency is over. But just to correct the record, because there's been a lot of misinformation on this, the FDA's decision does not affect the availability of COVID vaccines for Americans who want them. We believe in individual choice. That's a promise both the president and the secretary have made, and it's a promise they have now delivered on.
Question, if I could, Caroline. Second question, if I could. Sorry. I wonder if you could answer why the president hasn't acknowledged the shooting at CDC headquarters that took place earlier in August, where a police officer was killed, and it was reported that the motivation for the shooting was somebody who was really unhappy with the effects of the COVID vaccine.
We absolutely were very much aware of that shooting. The Secretary of Health and Human Services put out a statement immediately. He was in touch with the CDC, and he actually traveled to Georgia to assess the situation and to mourn with the people who work in that building there. So. Go ahead.
With respect to Labor Day, one of the most underrepresented groups right now are police officers. 30,000 police officers short in America right now. To Brandon's question, 1,300 short in Chicago, 3,000 short in New York, 500 short here in Washington, D.C. What can the White House, what can the President do to help recruitment of police officers? You've done well with the military and Border Patrol. What can be done to get more police officers on the streets of America?
Well, the president has certainly been very successful in recruiting federal law enforcement. If you look at the ICE recruitment campaign that was led by he and our Secretary of Homeland Security, we've seen more than, I believe, 130,000 applicants to join ICE, which is just amazing. There's more applicants now than there are jobs to fill, and we're very grateful for that. Clearly, Americans want to serve their communities. They just need a leader who encourages them to do so. So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We turn now to an event that is set to get underway in just a matter of moments right here. This is a live look inside this building right here as we are expecting Vice President J.D. Vance to speak in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and specifically focus on American jobs. You can see there in the background, this is at an American steel facility. So we're going to be hearing about American jobs and American steel. And of course, we will bring you the vice president's remarks once we see him take to the stage. In the meantime, we do have another live event that just got underway. California Governor Gavin Newsom now speaking and talking about how he is tackling crime across the state.
Not only the mayor, but members of the County Board of Supervisors in Alameda, members of the City Council, including clergy. We had a meeting here at the governor's office, and perhaps the most vocal advocates for partnership with the California Highway Patrol were members of clergy. We initiated that operation, which continues to this day with tremendous success. I underscore that success to highlight the fact that there has been over 4,000 vehicles in Oakland alone, stolen vehicles that have been recovered under this operation. Illegal guns, DUIs, that operation continues again to this day quite successfully, embraced by the new mayor, currently members of the City Council, including, again, those that help sponsor this effort at the county level. We've expanded those operations in San Bernardino. We expanded those operations in Bakersfield. And we've received additional requests in other parts of the state. And that's what we wanted to highlight here today, that we're going to be expanding this operation, building on the success that is now included over 9,000 arrests statewide, a effort that will now take shape on Border Division down in San Diego. We're going to advance this effort down in L.A., to other parts of the Central Valley, not just limited to Bakersfield, in partnership with Mayor Go there in San Bernardino. And we're going to expand this operation in a collaborative that continues to include the cities and counties, our partners in the Sheriff's Office and local